So today I have some tips for you in case you're living in a not gluten-free environment. Hey guys, it's the Gluten Freak. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about living in a gluten-rich environment. What does that mean? Well, I'm glad you asked. Basically, it just means that the people around you are not celiac, gluten intolerant, eating gluten-free for no reason. The biggest thing that you have to do as a celiac, that you will continue to have to do, that will never ever go away, is advocate for yourself. I mean, you have to let the world know that you have celiac disease and you cannot eat gluten. Every single person that knows me knows I cannot have gluten. I feel that that's how it should be for every celiac. If these are roommates that you've never met before, advocate for yourself. Tell them off the bat, hey, I have this disease and it's a big deal and I need you to take it seriously. Be straight up. Don't beat around the bush with this, because there's really no point. You know, it's just, it needs to be taken seriously, and if you're not educating the people around you, it won't be taken seriously, and that sucks. One of the things that you can do is educate the people around you about cross-contamination. So when I was first diagnosed, I was like, what is that? Never heard it in my life. Maybe you have. If you haven't, really make sure that you're able to explain it to the people that you will be living with, because it's really something that they need to be cautious of and you need to be cautious of. You can't do it alone, basically, is what I'm saying. So cross-contamination is like when anything with gluten touches anything without gluten, because that crosses and contaminates your gluten-free food, and now it has gluten in it. Now you can't eat it. And it's honestly, I mean, it's different for every celiac, but when I was first diagnosed, it was extremely, it could be a crumb of a piece of bread and I would be sick for a week. It's very important for you to take that seriously and for the people around you to take that seriously. When you educate the people around you about your disease and about what cross-contamination is, then you give them the opportunity to tell you when they have cross-contaminated something. My sister and my mom and my dad have told, even my aunt, people around me have always been like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was making this gluten-free and then I cross-contaminated it. And you know what? As much as it bothers me that that happened, I appreciate that you were able to recognize that you made a mistake and that it will probably get me sick and let me know about it. For me, you just protected me. You know, you could have protected me a little bit better, but at least you took that step to let me know that this is going to get me sick. One of the things that you can do is buy squeezy bottles. So for any condiments or sides or basically anything that you can find in a squeezy bottle, buy it. So for any condiments that you're going to be sharing in your household, you're going to want squeezy bottles. If you think of like mayonnaise. So for example, mayonnaise, you stick your knife in, spread it on your bread. You didn't get enough, stick your knife back in, spread it on your bread. You just contaminated that entire thing of mayonnaise. But if you had a squeezy bottle, you can just squeeze it on your bread, spread it. You need more, squeeze a little bit more. It never touches the bread, so the chances of cross-contamination they shrink, you know? It's a good idea to invest in squeezy bottles of any kind. If anybody finds Nutella in a squeezy bottle, please let me know, because I have not been able to find it and I really want it. Because right now we're buying 2 Nutellas and one says gluten-free and one isn't. Yeah. That's another thing that you can do. So if you for some reason can't find a squeezy bottle of mayonnaise, buy 2, the little ones, and have one that says gluten-free really big, and don't let anyone else use it. In a previous video, I talked about this aluminum foil. Aluminum foil is really just such a savior for us gluten freaks. Basically, what you can do with aluminum foil is you can use it to cook on contaminated areas. So for example, every morning not every morning, but for the most part, I'll have toast with Nutella. But in order to put it in my oven or my toaster oven, I use aluminum foil and I put it on top of the rails, and then I toast my bread, because my family doesn't eat gluten-free because they don't have to. So the toaster oven is cross-contaminated, and I am not gonna clean that thing first thing in the morning every day. It's not gonna happen. But aluminum foil eliminates that process for me. And that also works for barbecues. You can just put that over the rails, same thing, cook your bread, cook your meat, right on top of the aluminum foil. It cooks just as well. And you didn't have to ask anyone to clean the entire grill for you to eat. Aluminum foil makes it a lot easier and you don't have to clean, so always a plus. And I'm all about simplicity. Actually, I'm really just lazy, but another thing that you can do is label your food. So when I say label, I am not saying like go buy a label maker and start labeling your food. No, honey, we are all broke. I use tape and a Sharpie to let your roommates, housemates, family members know that this is gluten-free and please don't contaminate it. Please don't touch my food. Literally. You can also have a designated gluten-free area in your kitchen, in your pantry, like this shelf is going to be gluten-free, or in your, what's the other one, the cold one? In your fridge. Just be like, oh, all this stuff right here in this section is going to be gluten-free and it's mine. You can always have like your own little shelf, your own little area of the kitchen that will have your gluten-free food so that you can at least keep it there and make sure that nobody's around it, contaminating it, whatever. Another thing that I would suggest is to stop buying like big family-sized bags of chips or cookies, or, I mean, they're not gluten-free, so whatever. The family-sized packs of like snacks in general, I wouldn't recommend because it's very difficult to avoid cross-contamination. If you had the individually packaged chips, then they would be okay. It just makes it easier and there's less chance of cross-contamination. You can also ask your family to pour the chips instead of sticking their hand in, but there's no guarantee that they will do that every single time. And it may not be their fault. You know, it's hard to remember all these little changes. But I mean, it's worth asking if you don't want to go buy individually wrapped items. So another thing that you can do is consistently clean the kitchen. Now this one totally sucks and I don't like it at all. But you have to clean and disinfect after every meal if the people around you are not eating gluten-free or not making gluten-free meals. A way to avoid this, or not even avoid, just like if you're in a rush and you're not really sure if anybody has cooked anything prior to, you can always just grab like a paper towel and cut your vegetables. I mean, you can have a cutting board too, but if you don't, like I don't, you can just use paper towels, put it on top of the counter, place all your food on the counter, cut whatever you need, mix whatever you need right there on top of the paper towel on top of the counter. It's the same as the aluminum foil where it just creates a barrier so that it lessens the chance of cross-contamination. I'm not going to say that this is going to avoid cross-contamination because you are living in an environment that has gluten, so there's no guarantee, but there are certain precautions that you can take that will make this easier. Another thing that you can do is go buy your own like cookware, like pots, pans, spatulas, things like that. You can, and I would recommend that you do if you're living with like roommates that you've never talked to before or stuff like that. When I was first diagnosed, when I was 15, my mom went out and bought all new pots and pans that were going to be designated gluten-free. These are Katrina's pans. Nobody's going to touch them. And that lasted maybe like 6 months before somebody accidentally used them to cook something with gluten. And since then, we kind of just gave up on that concept and we just wash our pans really, really well. And it's normally fine. I really haven't been cross-contaminated at home. If you want to take that precaution, go for it. Just make sure that the people around you are going to be fully aware of the fact that these are the gluten-free cooking stuff and I will not touch it with any gluten, which is going to be kind of hard. But by all means, go for it. Another thing that you can ask people that live with you to do is to wash their hands consistently. I mean, like, for example, when my sister makes a sandwich, she'll grab her bread and she'll wash her hands before she touches anything else in the house, right? She washes her hands and then she'll go get the meat and then she'll wash her hands again. So it's really annoying, but you can ask people to do that for you. Another thing that you can do, a thing that my family does that they have been doing since I was diagnosed, is my mom was like, I am not making 2 meals for this child. We're all gonna eat gluten-free. And it's not 100% gluten-free, meaning if we make spaghetti, we make it with gluten-free like sauce, gluten-free meat, and gluten-free noodles. But then the sides may be something like garlic bread, which isn't gluten-free, but it's never touching the actual main course, like it's in a basket by itself away from the food, so that it won't get cross-contaminated, but so that the people who are eating gluten can. If you're the head of household, make that household as gluten-free as you want. If you're cooking all of the meals, make them gluten-free. And if they want gluten, they can make it themselves. You know, like, don't feel like you have to make like 10,000 meals. I don't think that you should. You don't overcomplicate your life. There are ways to make it simple and still be safe. It will get better. You will get used to it. It'll be okay, I promise. Hopefully this helped you out. Hopefully this made your transition a little bit easier. I hope it gave you some ideas, some precautions that you can take. Let me know what you think. I'm here for it. Thanks for watching.